Hello, everyone. Welcome. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. This is the Dr. Finance Live podcast. We have an amazing guest today. We got Dr. Ivan Misner. He is the founder of BNI, the largest business networking organization in the world. And we're going to learn so much today. So let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Ivan Misner. Welcome, Dr. Ivan. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic, Dr. Finance. Thanks for inviting me onto your podcast. I really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. Definitely an honor to have you here, sir. So we met on Clubhouse, believe it or not. So if anyone wants to wonder if Clubhouse is good, okay, I've met so many cool people like Dr. Ivan on Clubhouse. And yes, the answer is yes, you can network, as we're going to talk about today, from Clubhouse. So it's a cool integration platform today where there's so many potential opportunities if you take advantage, and we have one right here. So thank you, Dr. Ivan. Let's get started, and maybe just if you can summarize, what you do in maybe 30 seconds, and then we'll get to your story right after. So welcome, Dr. Ivan.
BNI basically helps people create referrals for life. We allow one person per profession to join one of our groups, and they get together every week and pass each other referrals. We have 10,400 groups in more than 70 countries around the world. Last year, we passed about 16 million referrals to our members through these individual groups, 283,000 members, and they generated 18 billion with a B, $18 billion worth of business for each other through our referral platform. Now, just so you know, 18 billion is the same as the gross domestic product for the country of Liechtenstein. Okay, it's a small country, I know, but still, it's pretty cool that we would generate actually more business than the GDP of Liechtenstein. I'm looking for a bigger country next year, but so we're a referral organization. We help people get business. Even during COVID, our members generated billions of dollars in business.
How do you track that 18 billion number? I saw it on your website. Like, is there like a tracking system? Because that's
we have a system called Thank You for Closed Business. So when somebody gets a referral, they put it into the system. We have a program called BNI Connect. It's sort of like LinkedIn, but it's a walled garden. So you have to be a BNI member to play. And so when they get a referral and that referral turns into a sale, they plug it into the system. And that's how we know the amount of business that was generated. So it's completely member generated numbers.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Ivan. So, all right. So we're going to learn about your story. Ivan, can you tell us about yourself, where you originally grew up from, what state or city you were from, and, basically unfold the story from there.
So I moved from Pittsburgh. My family moved from Pittsburgh, where I was born, when I was about 6 years old. And we moved to South Central LA, believe it or not. And I lived in South Central for about a year, and we moved to Azusa. So I grew up in the Azusa area. I went to Gladstone High School. And it was a, middle class, lower middle class neighborhood that I grew up in. And I actually had a scholarship to go to Occidental College, a 50% scholarship, but I didn't have the other 50%. So I went to a junior college, and then I went to a state university. And finally, for my master's and doctorate, I went deeply in debt and went to USC and got my master's and doctorate degree at the University of Southern California. And did business for a few years and started a consulting business in the 80s. And BNI was just a fluke, total fluke. I had gone to a lot of networks, and a lot of the networking groups that I went to were very mercenary. I would go there and everyone was trying to sell to me, and I felt like I'd been slimed. I'd have to go home and get a shower. I hated those groups. And then I'd go to these other groups that were totally social. It was happy hour and hors d'oeuvres. Nobody was doing business. I didn't like those groups. So I wanted a network that would take the focus on business, but it wouldn't be so mercenary, and it would focus on relationships, but not be totally social. And the glue that would hold it together is our principal core value of giver's gain. This idea that if I help you, you'll help me, we'll all do better as a result of it. And I just had one group. I didn't plan on having 10,400 groups, but people kept coming to me and asking me if I'd help them open up a second group and a third group and a fourth group. And at the end of a year, I had 20 chapters. And I was like, wow, okay, didn't expect this. And that's kind of when I had my Brody moment. You remember the movie Jaws?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Sheriff Brody went into the wheelhouse where the captain, he had just seen the shark for the first time.
Mhm.
And he went into the wheelhouse where the captain was, and he goes, I think we're going to need a bigger boat. That was my wheelhouse. That was my Brody moment where it's like, I think I need a bigger organization. This is gonna get huge. And that's when I really sat down and created my plan to scale the business.
So you went, and let's step back a bit. So you got your PhD. Usually you only get a PhD if you expect to teach, because that's generally the major reason for it. Did you plan on becoming a professor?
Well, I actually was a professor for 16 years. I taught
okay.
at Cal Poly Pomona, where I got my bachelor's degree. And I also taught at the University of La Verne,
Wow.
where I ended up being on the Board of Trustees there. So I did teach, but I taught part-time. I was an adjunct professor, not a full-time professor, because I had started my own businesses and wasn't really able to teach full-time. The only reason I didn't continue teaching was I started traveling too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't able to teach, but I love teaching. It was a lot of fun. But I like what I do even more. When I started my PhD program, I was working for somebody and he said, do not get a PhD. And I said, why? He said, because you'll be unhireable. Nobody's going to hire you with a PhD.
That's true.
And I'm like, I don't care. I did it totally for personal reasons. Okay. So I don't know if I've talked about this much in interviews. I was going to go to law school after I finished my bachelor's degree, and I was accepted to law school. And I changed my mind at the last minute. And I wasn't quite sure why. I just decided I didn't want to be a lawyer. And I did the PhD for really all the wrong reasons. I did it because I wanted to prove to myself that if I went to law school, I could have gotten through law school. So I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I didn't want to go to law school. So I did the PhD. And I'm glad I did. It was an interesting journey. I think my master's probably gave me more tangible content than my PhD did, but so it was a personal objective, a personal hurdle that I wanted to jump.
Yeah, the thing about the PhD, I mean, you don't have to display it. It's optional. If you want to tell people about it, you tell them. If you want, you can strip the doctor from there for a moment. It's
you can, but if you're employed by somebody, you have to list it. And that's his point to me was because I was employed at the time. I was assistant to the president for a transportation company in Southern California. And he was like, you're going to be unemployable with a PhD. And I'm like, yeah, we'll see.
Well, you were always an entrepreneur anyway, right?
You know what? I was, and I kind of got off track for a few years, which was okay because it gave me a lot of experience in running an organization. For example, I am one of my first management job was for the Department of Commerce, the U.S. Census in 1980, and I had 500 people. I was 24 years old.
Wow.
24. And I had 500 people under me. And that was an unbelievable work experience in learning how to manage people at such a young age. So those jobs that I had were a great training ground for what I did later.
So you still live in California? You stayed?
No, I moved to Austin, Texas. I left California about 7 years ago, and this is my home office in Austin, Texas.
Wow. So, all right. Well, then we're going to talk about your BNI in a little bit because we got a lot of questions to ask you about that. Appreciate what you were saying before. So, what do you like to do for fun, Dr. Ivan?
Well, I have a boat here I'm near Lake Austin. So I have a boat. I like to go out on the boat and enjoy myself. I like astronomy. I've got a great telescope. And it's really amazing to see, particularly the planets. I love seeing the planets through the telescope. I love seeing galaxies through the telescope. And, you know, it's interesting because I've been talking a lot about my telescope for business, And here's why. I learned that the way we view life is really similar to what you do with a telescope. That when you look through a telescope, you can look at something so bright like the moon that it actually hurts your eyes. It's like walking into a pitch black room you're in a pitch black room for a few minutes and you flip on bright lights and your eyes hurt. That's what it's like to look through the moon, unless you put a filter on the lens or you use a different lens. And then the craters of the moon just jump out for you. And I've been talking about that in business and life lately, and that you have to pick the lens that you look at life through. Mm-hmm. And if you're not selective about the lens you use to look at your life, you're going to be a very miserable person. You're going to let the things that happen to you control who you are as an individual. And so I urge business people to look at their life through a different lens. For example, these are horrific times that we're living through with COVID, all the negativity. Oh my God. And the media. Oh God, the media complains as though it's an Olympic event. I've checked. It's not. And you know what, the news, I'm going to get on a platform here. The news, it's not the news anymore. It's the opinion stations. Yeah. And depending on what station you listen to, you're going to hear the left or you're going to hear the right. It's not, I remember the days of Walter Cronkite where he would go off on his opinion and there'd be this banner across the bottom that says, these are, you know, the broadcaster's comments are not necessarily the beliefs of this radio station. All right, I knew I was hearing opinion. You don't hear that anymore. And so we're bombarded with all of this. And I think it is making people crazy and angry. And so I really got off track, but I love telescopes. And it's also a great metaphor for life. You look at your life through a lens that gives you a different perspective. For example, and then I'll tell you what else I like. Everybody is saying, you know, this is horrible. I have Zoom fatigue. Look, what if this had happened 20 years ago? What if this had happened 30 years ago? We wouldn't have Zoom fatigue. We'd be out of business. We'd be bankrupt, or we'd have a lot more deaths. So when you look at it through that lens, when you go, this isn't so bad, you know, buck up, buttercup. It could be a whole lot worse. Choosing the lens that you see life through is important. So anyway, I love astronomy and I love fine art. That's actually a hobby of mine. I've been collecting fine art since I was 31 years old.
Wow. So, who's your favorite painter?
So, you know, I've got two pieces that, I got three pieces I really, really love. One is by Bresson from the 1800s, and it's called The Reading of the Will. Its formal name is Disinherited. And you can actually get a print of it on Amazon, but I have the original. And it's a lawyer reading from a will, and everybody in the room is furious, except one guy. The stable hand is holding his hat with a great big smile on his face because he probably inherited everything. Love that piece. Vibert, who would paint cardinals. I've got a Vibert that's amazing. And a George Adolphus story. It's a minister who's asking a woman, and this is from 1888, he's asking a woman, a seamstress, if she would be kind enough to darn his socks because he has no wife. I know it's sexist, but it's 1888, okay? I know the story because it's in the painter's handwriting on the back of the painting.
Wow.
on the frame. So yeah, I love fine art. That's a passion of mine. All of which, by the way, all of those, astronomy and painting. Oh, and the other is wines. I love wines. All three of those I got in undergraduate school. I acquired those in courses that, believe it or not, even wines. I had a wine tasting class in college.
Well, two points about the art. Two sub questions would be: one, have you ever been? I live in Philadelphia. Have you ever been to the art museum here? It's one of the oldest in the country. And the second would be, I used to live in Firenze, Florence, Italy, the art capital of the world. I'm sure you've been there. Any experiences that you like?
I have, yeah. That's where the Statue of David is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've been there. It's amazing to see it in person. I mean, you can see photographs and be impressed, but to see it in person is
not the same. Yeah,
it's not the same. And the statue is so big. I really like art. I've not been to the Philadelphia Museum, but I have been to Florence.
okay. Yeah, actually, it's an invite for you. If you ever come to Philly, I'd be happy to show you. It's one of the top ones in the country. So
I just got a brand new statue literally 2 weeks ago called A Self-Made Man. And it is a bronze statue of a man hammering himself out of granite.
wow, that sounds cool.
And the artist actually delivered the statue, and it was a woman, a female artist, did this great statue of a guy and it's called Self-Made Man. You can find it on the internet, the statue. I mean, there are multiple copies of it. I don't have the only one.
Thank you, Ivan. Appreciate it. You'd rather me call you Ivan, you said, right?
Yeah, Ivan, please.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay. So I guess before we get into the main questions, I got about 20 questions. So I figure about 2 minutes each, but I just want to get to know you a little bit better. Talk about your books. So you're a New York Times bestseller, I believe, right? And you have many books.
Three times, but who's counting?
3 times? Wow. Can you tell us a quick summary of your books and your writing? And
the last big one that I did was called Who's in Your Room? And I'll see if I can give it to you in 2 minutes. Imagine that you live your entire life in one room. And that one room has only one door. And that one door is an enter-only door. So that when people come into your room or into your life, they're there forever. You can never get them out. Now, if this were true, it sounds like a metaphor, right? But if it were true, would you be different? Would you have handled things differently, Dr. Finance, in terms of letting people into your room?
Absolutely. But Dr. Ivan, I'm thinking of a scene from the Bronx Tale. I know I'm going off on a different angle here, where when he locks the door and he says, "Now you can't leave."
Well, I would argue, in fact, that it's more than a metaphor, because what I want you to do right now, and if you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to think of someone you got out of your life, because people tell me it is a metaphor. I can get people out of my life. Great. I want you to think of someone you got out of your life. And I want you to think about what they did to you that why you wanted them out of your life. Now, I'm not going to ask you who it is, so you're safe. But do you have someone in mind?
Sure.
Okay. I want you to think of the last thing they did that just ticked you off so much, you're like, that's it. I want them out of my life. You got it in your mind? Now, if you're listening to this or watching this, I want you to have someone in your mind. You got them in your mind?
Yes.
So if they're still in your head, they're still in your room, and they will be there for the rest of your life, because the room starts here and ends here. It's the experiences that you have in life. And so the book is about how do you be more selective about the people you let into your life? And then how do you deal with the ones that you've let into your life before you understood that concept, or the ones that you had no choice about, like family? How do you deal with those people? And then the last part of the book is how do you live your dream life? And that's the book in a nutshell.
Well, I'm glad you went there, because over the past few years, I learned people like that to retrain myself to look at those experiences and those people as not wish that they were eliminated from my life, but to recognize that if I never met them, as bad as those experiences were, I wouldn't be me, because I learned from them what not to do. So I would like to never have that situation again, but I'd like to just, make better selections in the future.
Well, that's a very healthy and mature way to look at it. It really is.
Right.
But you recognize, of course, that many people live their story
Yes.
about these bad experiences. That becomes their story rather than going above that experience
Right.
and looking at it, and recognizing that it was only an experience. It wasn't who they have become. They don't have to become that person based on what happened to them. And that's not easy. People continually relive their story of the past instead of using it as tuition to understand how to have a better life in the future.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Thank you, Dr. Ivan. So how many books did you have total?
26.
26 books?
Yeah.
Wow. And you were authors of all those books?
Yeah.
Mixture?
Author, co-author.
Author, yeah.
Many of my books now I co-author with people. And it's a great way to brainstorm and to come up with new concepts and ideas. And to be honest with you, I keep doing books because I get a lot more media. Years ago, I would try to do interviews on the radio or newspapers, and I'd talk about BNI, and of course they would say, "Take an ad out. We're not going to talk about BNI." So what I discovered was the media will interview any idiot with a book, and I have 26. So I probably do about 200 interviews a year because I keep coming out with new books, new ideas, new concepts. And so it's a great way to get media coverage. If you're in business and you want to build a brand, I would urge you to do a podcast like you've done, or do a book, or do both.
Well, I appreciate your honesty. That's great feedback to hear that from you. And who else would have better experience? So folks, definitely consider what Ivan said, because that's extremely, extremely powerful. Having a book is a big
and at the same
business
time, I don't want to minimize the fact that I also wanted to pour into people my good and bad experiences in business and in life, so that they could learn. I mean, that's the cornerstone to my writing books, and it's great brand building. So
to get
I'm
the
sorry,
message
I cut
out.
you off.
No, that was great. And that's the key. The key is to get your message out, however form it is. So, and you have a positive message, which is awesome and should be shared. All right. Well, thank you, Ivan. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to start talking about BNI. So I think the best way to start this discussion off is if you can give us a description of what BNI is. And it's okay. You can plug it here. So this is my podcast. You can say whatever you want.
Well, as I mentioned before, it's a referral organization. So
Yeah.
we have one person per professional classification. So one banker, one attorney, now one real estate agent, et cetera. But sometimes there's different classifications. For example, a chapter might have multiple attorneys, maybe somebody who does business law, somebody who does family law, somebody who does wills and trusts. Might be a commercial real estate agent and a residential real estate agent. But generally speaking, only one person per classification. And we do that so that you can feel comfortable talking about your business without your competition looking over your shoulder and taking ideas. And we also want to create a safe environment for people to refer each other. We literally get together every week, all around the world. Now, prior to COVID, it was in person. We had to pivot very quickly to online. And so starting in January of 2020, we started to pivot in China because we have chapters throughout China. And then in February, it was Italy, and then Europe. And by March, it was the entire world. We pivoted all 10,000 chapters to online. So right now, most of our chapters are meeting online. They're beginning to go back to meet in person, or something new, a hybrid, where they're meeting online 3 times a month and once a month in person, because nothing beats that in-person connection. And so we'd like to keep that as much as possible. By the way, COVID, in my opinion, accelerated the online aspect. It would have happened anyway. I wrote an article for Entrepreneur 3 years ago that said the future of face-to-face was online. And, my organization was like, oh, say it's not so, the old man's losing it, online. Are you kidding? No, because technology is advancing. I mean, look at this. We're doing, you're in Philadelphia, I'm in Austin. We're doing a presentation through this technology. It didn't exist 10 or 20 years ago. And so 10 years from now, it is really thought that there's going to be a lot more mixed reality, 3D technology, holographic images, that kind of technology. And it's going to change the way we network. Almost like, the holographic images in Star Wars, where they had the Jedi Knight, real Jedi, and then a couple of holographic images, then a real Jedi. I mean, seriously, some variation of that, I think, is just a decade away. And when we get there, by the way, I want to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just putting that out there.
That'd be funny. All right, Ivan, so let's talk about the online thing. So I don't know if you know about this about me, but I was a professor, but I wasn't just a professor. I was an online professor. So I started back in 2008 with the crash. I basically fought from going into bankruptcy. I was in debt in the millions from my real estate, my financial planning business, both that fell apart. I pivoted into becoming a professor. So where can I do this and control my schedule? Online, right? So I was online when people thought they didn't even understand what I did. They're like,
yeah, that was ahead of time.
Now everybody gets it. But so I definitely am with you on the online thing. I wanted to ask you, when this all happened, what was the effect of your organization going online? Do you think that, like, people, it's actually better? Are you finding a better experience for your customers, your members?
A lot of people think of an in-person network and not very technology savvy, but we've always been an early adopter of technology. BNI's website, the corporate global website, is bni.com. You can't have a 3-letter domain if you weren't an early adopter. Right. And so we've been an early adopter, and I would say it absolutely saved the company. I mean, there's just no question about it. It saved the company, but more importantly, it saved hundreds of thousands of other businesses. BNI has almost 30, this January, it will be 37 years of consecutive growth. There aren't many companies in the world that can say they have over 36 years. I mean, right now we're 36 and 3/4 years. 36 years of consecutive growth, even during the craziest times we've experienced in the last 2 years.
Yeah, you've had 3 or maybe 4 economic major problems.
Yeah. We've been through 4 recessions. Yeah, we have. COVID was harder on us than the recessions because transitioning to online was a little bit more of a challenge, especially for people with a lot of gray hair like me. A lot of people were very resistant to moving online. Many of them did it, but a lot of them didn't. Despite that, we've still grown. As a matter of fact, when COVID hit in January in Asia, in January of 2020, we had 9,700 chapters. Today, we have over 10,400. Wow. So we have opened over 700 new locations during COVID. So I really feel that the organization has saved a lot of businesses, 18 billion, and thank you for closed business, just in the last 12 months, by the way. That's not during all of COVID. That's just in the trailing past 12 months.
That is amazing. Well, that just answered my question right there. If you had approximately 600 or 700 new groups pop up in the past 12 months, they had to be online. So they're basically
100%.
Yeah, their whole existence is based on what we're talking about here, an online presence.
Yeah,
So
and
I
we
guess
still
it's
have
working.
some BNI directors locally who say online won't work. It's like, hello, have you not noticed that we grew? It's like, people, I think limiting beliefs are one of the biggest challenges that business people have in being successful. It's one, there's a few, but limiting beliefs are just, they're just a roadblock to a lot of people, and distractions. Their limiting beliefs then have them be distracted. Well, I can't do it because of this, and I can't do it because of that, and I can't do it because of this.
Yeah.
Well, why can't you do it? Other people are. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're going to be right. You're going to be right. And those people who think they can't, even within my organization.
Is that a Henry Ford quote? Because I heard that before. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who first said it. It's not mine, but yeah, if you think you can or you think you can't, you'll be right. And it's so frustrating to me where people, just limit themselves on what's possible. Now, look, I'm a realist. I believe in being realistic. You got to have the data and the information behind you. And so I say to those directors of mine within my own organization who aren't growing, hey, look, these guys are growing. You can do it too. No, I can't do it. No. Yeah, you're right. You can't, because you believe you can't. And so it'll never happen.
Thank you.
Just drives me nuts.
People resist change,
They do. And, they do. And I think it's why many will go out of business. You've got to learn to pivot. And change is going to be happening quicker and quicker. And you got to look at all the companies that have been disrupted in the past. Kodak invented the digital camera. Mm-hmm. They invented it. They had the patent on the digital camera. And they licensed it out to other companies because they didn't want to interfere with their film processing business. One of the senior executives, how'd that work out for them, by the way? Not so good. One senior executive at Kodak actually went on record saying, besides, who's going to look at photographs on a computer?
No way. They said that?
Yeah, they did. They did. And here's another one, a favorite of mine. They say, you may be too young to remember this, but the Sears catalog. The Sears used to have this gigantic catalog. It was several inches thick. And it had like everything you can imagine in this catalog that you order, and they would ship it to you.
They were original Amazon.
Yes, but here's the crazy thing. But it was paper-based. In 1993, Sears executives said the catalog business is kind of dying. It's pretty much dead. And they shut down their operations in 1993. Do you know who incorporated in 1994? Amazon. Sears could have been Amazon.
Yeah.
They could have been, but they said the catalog business is dead. Well, yeah, the printed catalog business was dead or dying, but the online catalog business was emerging. And had somebody at Sears had the wherewithal, the mental capacity to be willing to pivot, Sears, they've filed bankruptcy. I don't know how many times. They're a fraction of the size they were years ago. Blockbuster is the other one. Blockbuster once said Netflix isn't even on our radar as competition. Did you know Netflix asked Blockbuster to buy them?
Yeah, they had 2 years. They could have bought them.
They asked it twice. Yeah, for $500 million. Oh, no, I'm sorry, for $50 million. For $50 million. Now Netflix is worth billions. Where's Blockbuster? They're out of business. I think there's one left in Washington. Disruption is here to stay. And so as business people, we have to learn how to adopt the new technologies that exist and adapt our business to it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was 3 good stories. I'm sure we could fill books of plenty more with that.
Yeah.
Okay. How does it feel to have started the largest business network in the world?
I'm humbled by what BNI has become. I really am. We just did our international convention. I think there were somewhere over 7,000 people. It was online, but our next one's going to be in person unless something else crazy happens in the world, in Singapore. And we anticipate probably 10,000 people in person and online combined there. And when I walk into an international convention for BNI and I see all the flags from all the countries, and I listen to people talk around me, and they're all the languages and the accents, I am humbled by what BNI has become. And I mean, it's like going into a United Nations meeting where everyone actually likes each other. There's not all of this intrigue. People like each other and they're there to help each other. It's a humbling experience to see what this little idea has become.
Can you describe one of these meetings? 'Cause I'm new to BNI, just hearing about it from yourself. Many people may not know what BNI is.
Yeah.
So like, what should they expect? You go into one of these meetings, what do you see from the moment you get there to the time you leave? They serve food, or like, how's that work?
Well, the in-person and the online are very much the same, except for the food. And there's open networking online. Usually the chapter president will break everybody up into groups of about 3. So it's, it's manageable. You can talk to 2 or 3 people. In person, you mix and mingle. There's a visitor host that walks the visitors around so you can meet people. The meeting starts after about 15 minutes of open networking. You go around the room and everyone gets to introduce themselves. It's called the weekly presentation. And depending on the size of the group, it could be anywhere from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. You stand up and you say who you are and what you do. Members go first, and then the visitors have a chance to stand up and say who they are and what they do. And then we do a few administrative things. We have usually 1 or 2 speakers, again, depending on the size of the chapter. The statistical mean worldwide is like 25 members per chapter. Well, we have chapters that are as high as 100 members in a chapter. And so depending on the size of the chapter, there may be 2 speakers every week. The speakers are always members, not outside speakers. They're a member. And the idea is to go deeper than a minute or than 30 seconds to talk about your business, and potentially have time to do Q&A. So you can explain who you are and what you do more effectively. And then one of the last parts of the meeting is the referral part of the meeting. And we literally go around the room, whether it be online or in person, and people stand up one at a time and they'll say, I have 2 referrals today. One's for Dr. Finance. One is for so-and-so.
Wow.
Here's the referral. This is what it is. And now we do it online, but in the past we would have a referral slip and we'd actually hand the referral slip to somebody. And I'm talking about referrals, not leads. A lead is just basically a contact, and they're not expecting your call.
Right.
A referral is, I've talked to this person, I've given them your number, they're expecting your call.
Oh, wow.
That's
really cool.
It's a referral. Now, it's not a guaranteed sale, but
as close you can get.
When you call them, they know who you are and they know why you're calling, and they've said okay to it. Now, it could be, anywhere from just that to, people who really do great referrals they want to meet you next week. If you'd like, I'll take you over there and make a personal introduction. To me, that's the highest level. If I take this person and introduce them to you personally, that's a really high quality referral. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And, when you give that quality referral, the chances of it closing into a sale are dramatically higher. Then we do some administrative stuff, and the meeting's over. It's usually an hour and 15 minutes, unless it's a really, really big chapter. It can go longer.
Wow, that's
very
really
structured.
Fascinating.
We don't wing it. Very structured. And some people don't like the structure and the rules and the processes, but hey, you know what? Hockey without rules would be boxing on ice.
Yeah.
You got to have processes and systems. Anybody who's been in business for any length of time knows that. And so the thing is, you just got to apply the rules and the policies more like, Mandela than Attila. You do it with tough love.
Now, obviously, you guys are the largest. What did you get a lot of imitators? Because it seems like you had a very unique process, and we all know what happens when you're successful with something. Usually the imitators come out of the woodwork. So
they do. Yeah, obviously we do. I mean, every business has competition. And, now here I'll quote Henry Ford. Ford once said, the competitor that I fear most is the one who's improving his business every day. not the one who's bad mouthing me. And so what most of our competitors do is they say, we're BNI without the rules. I love those groups because they're going to fail. It becomes a coffee klatch. It becomes a social group. So yeah, there are, you can copy certain strategies.
Right.
If you lift our material, our lawyers will be calling you and have. But you can copy ideas. What you can't copy? Culture. You can't easily copy culture. And culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture is the secret sauce to a successful company. And we have worked really hard to create an organizational culture, beginning with the theme of giver's gain, this idea that we're here to help each other. And, it's got to start with me. It's got to start with me helping you. And then hopefully you'll be willing to do the same for me.
What you said, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but I've actually experienced this on Clubhouse. So we have a very unique club, and we had the longest running room on Clubhouse that went about 84 days. And I noticed the first day, so I was the initiator behind it. I didn't know it was going to go this far. I just made a room. It was down to 12 people. I brought it up to 500. We had a couple celebrities there. Wake up the next day, find out they want to go for the club decides they want to break the record, which is like 31 days. And it went on for 84 days. It became a movement. And we had over 1 million people come through that one room on Clubhouse because of that. But the next day, after I did that 10-hour stand on my feet to make that room, already like everybody wanted to have a Friday night room. All these different groups were popping up, trying to, copy and imitate different aspects. But what you just said resonated, because the one thing me and the senior members of the club, especially owners, realize is that it's culture. It's like you can't recreate what we got going here, because it's this exact ingredients. I mean, to the teaspoon is this culture, this way we've set the rules up for the people in here. It would be extremely difficult to imitate that.
It is. And that's, I think, one of the things that's set BNI aside from the people that pop up. And they can't use the term giver's gain. We trademarked that, which was smart.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I would appreciate it. All right. So what is network marketing? I think that's a good topic to explore. Let's take a step back. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening. Many don't even know what the term is. So,
well, network marketing is generally used by multi-level marketing companies. BNI is not a multi-level marketing company. So sometimes people will use the expression talking about BNI is that we do network marketing. We are a networking organization. We are a marketing organization. We tend to use the term referral marketing so that we're not confused with being a multi-level marketing company. Now, there's nothing wrong with multi-level marketing companies. We have multi-level marketing companies in BNI, many of them, and that's great. You'll never hear me badmouth a multi-level marketing company. I just want to be clear, BNI is not one of them. We're closer to McDonald's than we are to Amway because we're a franchise. So people actually own and operate territories where they open up BNI groups. So we're a referral marketing business, and it's all about the referrals. That is our mission, is to help people increase each other's business through a structured, positive, professional referral marketing platform.
So if you had to define network marketing, you would say network marketing is
a multi-level marketing company.
Okay.
Not what BNI does.
Okay.
Network marketing is, it's a phrase that was picked up by MLMs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's used ambiguously. Like most are used the way you just defined it. But then I hear other groups, they're saying it in a different context, where like we're marketing to networks, but not exactly like a downstream, like a Amway or something.
Yeah. The problem is that it's become so embedded in the multi-level marketing industry,
right,
that we steer away completely from the term, because we're not, and we don't want to be confused. And there are countries in the world that prohibit multi-level marketing companies. And so if it sounds like I'm trying to be really crystal clear that we're not, it's because we are in some of those countries
Right.
that prohibit multi-level marketing companies and think that we might be. And so we try to be really, really clear that we are a franchisor, not multi-level marketing. And like I said, the term network marketing has kind of been taken over by MLMs, good or bad.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the future of networking? Now, that's the question, but let me just clarify, particularly in regards to your friend Richard Branson and space. I saw you recently posted a video about your business in space, and to be continued. So here's the opportunity to talk about that. So what's the future of networking?
Well, I think as I wrote in the article 3 years ago, I think the future of networking is going to be online more and more. I'd like to see it be anchored in some in-person meetings because look, you know, if we lived near each other, we'd be doing this recording together. I like to be able to meet somebody in person, shake their hands, look into their three-dimensional eyes and have a conversation. The thing is, the technology is becoming better and better. I just saw something from Microsoft that was holographic meetings that not quite like the Star Wars thing that I was talking about, but not, you know, it's a step. It was a sheet of glass where it looks like a physical person is on the other sheet of the glass.
Wow.
I mean, it's three-dimensional. And you can see micro expressions, and it's a project that's being worked on by Microsoft right now. That's the future of networking. And so, I tell the people in BNI and anyone who really wants to network, you gotta get on board because this is the future. And I think millennials get this. They totally get this, and they'll be fine with it. But it's the people with, you know, a little bit of gray hair like me that tend to, the older folk.
But you wear it well, though.
I wear it well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I never had a problem with having gray hair. I went gray, but when my dad passed away at 85, he had darker hair than I did. I earned all this gray hair. I don't mind the gray hair. I'm just glad I still have hair.
Mm-hmm. So Ivan, let's go off on that just a little bit, just for a moment. We could probably make a whole podcast of this one day, but what would networking be like? I mean, this is all guess because it hasn't really happened yet. Let's say that we can, and Gary Vaynerchuk was on Larry King on an interview talking about this probably 5 or 10 years ago. Let's say you can have not just a Zoom call, we're actually in 3D now, and I can step in and shake your hand like that. What kind of what kind of feelings do you think that would bring about? I mean, how would that change things?
Well, I mean, there certainly would be things that would change, and we don't even know what those things are at this point. I'll tell you what would be the same. Let's start with that at least.
Okay.
One of the things that I've taught for years is that all too often people use networking as a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. Hi, my name's Ivan. Let's do business. And they go right into trying to sell. They use it as a direct selling technique. Networking is really, it should be about building relationships. And the foundation of everything I teach is what I call the VCP process: visibility, credibility, profitability. First, you have to be visible. People have to know who you are and what you do. Then once you've got visibility, people kind of recognize you, then you got to move to credibility. Credibility is where people know who you are, they know what you do, and they know you're good at it. They may know you're good at it because other people have talked to them about you, because you've built a reputation in the industry. Maybe they've done business with you and they've observed you and know that you're good at what you do. So you go from visibility to credibility. And that is the longest process, is getting to credibility. Then from credibility, you go to profitability. And profitability is where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and they're willing to refer you on an ongoing basis. Now, this isn't a sales process. So a lot of people think that they're at profitability when someone buys a product from them. You're not. This is a referral process. And so you're at profitability in referrals when someone is referring you, when someone is saying, hey, this guy's really good. This lady is fantastic at what she does. Would you like an introduction? And they say, yes, that's a referral. And that's when you get to profitability. And profitability could be money, it could be connections, it could be just the relationship. I mean, you and I, we're not really doing business, but we're getting to that credibility where we're about to the point to refer people. I mean, before we went on the podcast, we're talking about potential referrals. And so profitability can be profitability in terms of any kind of referral to a connection, a referral for business, to generate business. And it's really important to understand that this is a process, not a formula. So it's not visibility plus profitability equals, visibility plus credibility equals profitability. No, you could have visibility and credibility and never get to profitability. It's a process. It goes from one to the other to the next. Now, your question was about the future of networking. I think this foundation will remain constant, even as we do more digital networking, more online networking, because it's still about building credibility. I mean, I look at LinkedIn and people try to jump right over visibility, right over credibility, and they go right for the sale. And I don't even know who they are. My favorite ones who try to sell to me are, hey, I've got this great leads list that you might want to buy. And I'm like, do you even know what business I'm in? You don't even know the business I'm in.
Did you read his profile, folks? Oh my God.
Yeah, at least read the profile before you start to try to sell something. But so people, where it goes wrong is they jump over visibility, they jump over credibility, they try to get right to profitability, which in one of my books, by the way, Dr. Finance, we call premature solicitation, which you don't want to say fast 3 times, it'll get you in trouble.
Yeah. Premature
solicitation. We did a book about men and women and how they network, and that's where that phrase came up. By the way, men tend to be, we surveyed 12,000 people. Men tend to be, more than women, more transactional in the way they network. Women tend to be, more than men, relational in the way they network. And what we discovered was that women actually generated a higher percentage of their business through referrals than men did. And so then we took a look at relational versus transactional, forgetting about gender. We merged the genders in terms of who was relational, who was transactional. And the people, and the 12,000 people we surveyed, the people who were relational, let's build a relationship, a professional relationship, generated more business through referrals than the people who were transactional. And so that should tell you a lot about the process. Networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. It's about cultivating relationships with other business professionals.
And talking about this topic, the future of network, what I'm concluding here is what you're saying as well. If I can try to summarize it, basically the lessons are timeless of how to network. The principles stay the same. It doesn't matter if I can jump through the screen and shake somebody's hand or virtually sit at the same table with them. It would be the same as in real life. I mean, if you don't have credibility, if you don't do the right things that you're supposed to be doing in the right order with the right processes, you're going to lower your reputation and you won't get anywhere.
Exactly right. And I think if anything, the technology is going to make it easier to do it right or do it wrong.
It's like advertising, right? You can either fail faster or be successful faster. It's all
exactly. And so if you use, and that's why I say the VCP process is just as important in the future as it is in the past, because it really is about building that credibility before you start asking for a referral. The old expression, it never hurts to ask. Mm-hmm. Totally wrong. Completely wrong. It does hurt to ask if you don't have a relationship. At least if you're asking for a referral. I get it, sales is different. But if you're asking for a referral before there's any kind of relationship you're asking too soon. And that actually is off-putting to the person that you're going to. It's like build a relationship before you start to ask for anything from someone. That's where they're using networking in, it's like coin operated networking. I want to put the coin in, give me the candy. I want something. We shook hands. Now I want a referral. It's like, no, sorry.
That's funny. Dr. Ivan, before I close this question out though, do you have any last thoughts on the video that you just posted with the space and Richard Branson and future networking? Are you going a certain direction with that, or?
Well, it's something I'll be doing. But let me, it's just, you mentioned Branson a couple of times. Branson is an amazing networker. I'm really incredibly impressed with him. I've met him probably 8 or 10 times, and he is fantastic at dealing with people at all levels of an organization. He can be one moment talking to a multimillionaire and the next moment talking to a day laborer. And he treats them both the same way. I've seen this several times. I wrote about it in several places. I'll never forget my first visit to Necker Island, his private island. I'm headed back there at the end of the month. I remember my first visit. He was showing us the island he just bought next to Necker. And he was walking us around, and there was a day laborer who was two guys knocking down a one-story house on the new island he bought. And he said, "Excuse me for a moment." And he walked on over to talk to him. And I kind of, just listened. And he walked over to the two guys. And the first one he knew, second one, he introduced himself. He said, "Hi, I'm Richard." He said, "It was hot." And they're knocking down, I don't know if you've ever knocked down a wall with a sledgehammer. I have. That's real work. And so he said, "I know this is really hard work, but let me tell you why it's important." And he spends just 2 minutes talking to the guy about why what he's doing is so important and how he plans on building a community center right where the house is. And then there'll be tennis courts over there and then a road that goes up, and there are going to be new homes. And in order to do all of that, he's got to not have this building knocked down so they can bring in larger equipment, dredge out the bay, and do all the rest of it. And he can't do any of that until this comes down. And he said, "So I just wanted to let you know why you're doing this and how important it is for the overall project. And it was really nice to meet you," and shook his hand and walked on back to us. And I thought, dang, this guy's a billionaire. And he's giving the day laborer the why behind the hard work he's doing. A lot of bosses would walk on over and go, "Hey, come on, pick it up, you guys, you're going too slow," or complain. No, he gave him the big vision of why this project was so important. That's what makes a great networker, a great leader, and a great human, is being able to connect with people, to be able to, not have your ego enter the room before you do. And Branson, that's who he is. I'm very impressed with him.
Thank you, Ivan. That's an amazing story. Yes, and by the way, I have knocked down houses. I grew up in the real estate business. They were my first jobs, demolition, and you're right, it is extremely, extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from the perspective of the guy that's listening to Branson, he probably feels so much better that someone like him is talking to him like that.
Yeah, I think I saw him swinging harder after that.
Yeah, because it's a very discouraging job, but when you get a great boss, I mean, it makes that difficult job so much easier. That little appreciation feel.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ivan. Okay, so let's figure about another maybe a minute or so for each of these questions, so we can.
All right, I'll shorten my stories.
You're doing great. You're doing great. So why don't they teach networking in academia?
Oh, I think that's easy. I'll try to do it in a minute. Most full-time tenured professors in business have never actually run a business. And they teach business, but they've never actually run a business. And so heaven forbid that you should actually get your hands dirty and make a sale. It's why we don't teach sales in most universities around the world. As a core curriculum university course, sales or closing techniques is not taught. Why? Because tenured professors don't want to get their hands dirty. So they'll talk about social media, they'll talk about advertising. And of course, the first job you're going to get when you get a bachelor's degree in marketing is running a multi-million-dollar advertising campaign, right? No, you're going to go out and you're going to be told to go sell. And so then you're going to take a Brian Tracy seminar on how to sell because you don't know how to sell, because we didn't teach that in school. Same thing with networking. We don't teach networking, referral marketing, emotional intelligence, social capital. It's not taught in the United States. And I think it's because full-time tenured professors control the curriculum at a university.
Yeah, that answer is right on point. Right on
People
point.
don't understand how they control it. I was on the Board of Trustees for the University of La Verne. I watched it. The president of the university couldn't start a class. It had to be developed by a tenured professor.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. That's why I left teaching for universities, just to let you know, because that same reason. I was trying to bring new knowledge to the world about finance, and they weren't having any piece of it, weren't supporting anything.
No.
6 universities, I had to pass on all of them. So we're right on the same page. All right. How important, well, this is a question you'll like. How important is culture for a company?
Well, I told you culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's the DNA, which means, so let me talk about how you get to culture, because a lot of people say, how did you develop the culture?
Yeah.
And so I have kind of a different spin on creating culture than what I've read about. Culture begins with the processes that you have in an organization that work. You observe, as starting a business, you observe cultures, maybe from past experience or whatever, and you observe what works, the processes, and you create these processes within a company. Those processes become your traditions. Your traditions are the things you talk about. When I started the company, we discovered this, we discovered that. Here's an experience that we had. Your traditions become your core values. Now, you might start with a handful of core values in a company, but the core values in a lot of companies evolve over a little bit of time, and they come from traditions, which come from processes. So you go processes, traditions, core values. The core values, the healthy core values that you live, become your culture. And so that's the way you create culture in an organization, is to live those core values in a company. And our core values evolved over 2 or 3 years. And they evolved from my experiences and what I implemented into the company and what I watched work and what I watched not work.
Thank you, Ivan. Next question, maybe 30 seconds or so, because it's a preface to the question after that. What is a leader? Can you define a leader? Maybe 30 seconds.
A leader is someone, and I was taught this by a brigadier general who taught me at University of Southern California in the doctoral program. He said, we try to teach leadership in the military, not management. I mean, we teach management too, but leadership in particular, so that when you stand in the top of the hill and you say, follow me, they do. And so a good leader has great followers behind them, and it's about building a reputation as a great leader. I studied under Warren Bennis at the University of Southern California as well. He was, in his day, the world's leading expert before John Maxwell took that mantle, and John's a friend and deserves the mantle now. But he taught contextual intelligence and adaptive capacity, 2 concepts that aren't talked about a lot. He taught me in leadership that you have to understand the context of the situation and then be willing to adapt to that context. And I think it was that teaching that helped my company be able to pivot as time went on.
That is awesome response. Thank you, Ivan. So following up on that, can you have a great group without a great leader?
Somebody somewhere in that group's got to be a good leader. It may not be the leader, but somebody in that group of people have to be a great leader. Having a great leader at the top helps a lot. But I talk to people, and I've been here. This is literally a piece of my founder's remarks from last week. Is that you have to lead from where you are. And what I see happen is I see people say, yeah, but my boss is not an inspirational leader. Yeah, okay, get over it. Have it start with you. You can be an inspirational leader at any place in the organization. Even if you think your boss is not the ideal boss, there's no reason why you can't be. And so I believe that you can have a great organization if the person on top is not a great leader. Sure helps if they are. I mean, think about it. Sometimes people are leaders in an organization who don't have the title.
Mhm.
How can that be possible? Because there's positional power and there is actual power. And the actual power comes from people who are in fact great leaders, and they may not have the positional title.
They're the face of the organization, even though they're not technically officially.
They're the
boss.
heart of the organization culturally.
Mhm.
Yeah, even though they may not have positional power, they have influence.
You have a very, very great point. We can take this discussion to its extreme level, though. Let's just say, hypothetically, the owner was a dictator and their ear is not open to anyone else, even if the
Yeah.
person underneath them has the greatness. In that case, like, for example, some countries where there's complete dictatorship, total totalitarianism. Can you have a great country or a great group? We're talking about an extreme.
Yeah, I'd rather
version of
focus
group.
on it from a business perspective
Yeah,
than
from a
a
business perspective.
country. From a business perspective, no, eventually if the person running the company isn't listening to the people below them, eventually that company is going to go belly up. I mean, I'm a big believer in collaboration. If all the people in an organization row in the same direction at the same time, that organization will be an industry leader in that industry. And that happens because you get people together to collaborate. I'm actually working on a book right now called The Third Paradigm.
Mhm.
And the first paradigm is about competition. The second paradigm is about cooperation. And the third paradigm is about co-creation. And it's really all about business people and leaders in an organization being open to co-creating solutions to a business. An easy example of it is crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is about co-creation. And I think that the best leaders in the future will be leaders who understand how to collaborate and co-create together. And I'll tell you, I learned this lesson as a kid. As a kid, my mother gave me this paper. I was 13 years old. She gave me this paperweight. I'll read it to you. It says, diplomacy is the art of letting someone else have your way. She said, son, you are a bull in a china shop. You just knock people over. You have got to learn how to work with people, not roll over people. And that's about collaboration, not manipulation. And it was a great lesson. And it's one I have to remind myself of every now and then. But that's what I think led me into understanding the power of co-creation over time. And we did a survey of 4,000 business people to come up with the ideal aspects of being co-creative in business and the potential setbacks in co-creation. The book should be out next year. It's called The Third Paradigm.
That sounds like a fascinating book. So that's your next book, right?
I don't know if it'll be my next one. It depends on publishers, but yeah, it'll be next year.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ivan. And just to finish up on that particular question, groups really is just a collection of people. So you can actually have a group of two, and I argue really a group of one too. But for example, there are cities that have populations of one, but let's just say two or more. So groups expand, and it turns from little chess clubs to big companies to countries. So really, to sum this whole this question up, would you agree that basically what you just said can be applied to any level of groups, from the smallest to the biggest?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great video out there. I forget what it's on YouTube, and it's a bunch of people at a concert on a hill, and one guy stands up and he starts dancing like
Oh, I
which
know
is-
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
How to be a follower. The first follower, I think it's called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he's dancing like Ellen on Seinfeld,
I love that video.
weird dancing. And everybody's kind of looking at him. And then somebody else stands up and starts dancing. And then 10 people, and then 100 people. And I mean, it's really kind of an interesting observation on leadership. Not that we all stand up and dance, but that a great leader is somebody that has people who are willing to follow. And whether it's one person or two, but you start with one.
Yeah, they're the first follower. The leaders.
Yeah,
of the first
absolutely.
follower.
And I say this to people in terms of, they want to go from 0 to 60 and they want to do it overnight. And I say, look, the truth is success is kind of like a layer cake, it's layers that you add to it over time. And you got to go into it. At least I went into my businesses with the understanding that I may not make a world of difference, but I can make a difference in the world. And you do that one person at a time. And that one becomes 2, and that 2 becomes 4, and that 4 becomes 8, and that 8 becomes 16. And that's sort of the way I've lived my professional career.
And that's what makes you a great leader of your organization. You actually are the first follower. You're setting the example. You're demonstrating to your organization how to be a great referral source, a great networker by showing them that right. I
certainly endeavored to do that. Yeah. You got to walk the talk. I think it's important. What I see, what's that old phrasing? What you do thunders above your head so loudly, I cannot hear the words you speak. I think the older I get, the less I believe in words and the more I believe in behaviors. And so it really is how people behave and show up in the world that I think tell you who they are, and more than the words they say. Words are important, but behaviors, that's where the rubber meets the road.
Thank you, Ivan. Okay, now we're going to switch to Clubhouse a little bit, talk about a different kind of group. Do you see any correlation between the success of certain clubs on Clubhouse over others, and that of successful businesses and their inferior competitors? So, for example, there's a lot of business clubs, and I'm watching, actually, Clubhouse is creating a lot of conclusions for me. I'm watching the dynamics of groups from Clubhouse, and it's, everyone wants to be a group. Everyone wants to start their own club, especially when they're part of a club. They're like, oh, wow, this person can do that. Let me open up my own club. And then they get 3 people and they're wondering why they can't make it big, right? They're not following certain strategies. But so some similar clubs will actually fail, and some similar clubs will actually blow the top off and succeed extremely well. And I'm finding a correlation between that and businesses. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not an expert on Clubhouse, but I'm told I know a little bit about business. And so I will try to apply my concepts on business to Clubhouse. And I really like Clubhouse. We met in Clubhouse. So I recommend it. I recommend it to my BNI members. I recommend it to anyone who wants to, anyone who believes in lifelong learning. And that's one of our core values in BNI is lifelong learning. You have to always be sharpening your axe and improving who you are as a person and who you are as a business professional. And I see Clubhouse as a way potentially to do that. I think, and please feel free to correct me if you disagree, because you're more of an expert on Clubhouse than I am. I think it's about, to a large extent, about creating parameters. So you go into a kind of understanding what the rules of the room are, so you don't start allowing people to get way out of bounds. And I think it's about consistency. I think it's about commitment. I think it's about passion, but let me be clear about passion. Passion, I believe passion is really important to be successful in business, but passion does not produce commitment. Commitment produces passion. Commitment and passion produce results. It's the CPR for business. Commitment plus passion produce results.
I like that.
And so I think the Clubhouse groups that do well, from my observation, are the ones that have parameters that are reasonable, and then are really committed to following a healthy system, and then they get passionate about it. And that's what produces results. And it's, the other thing is it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's that consistency over time. That's my gut feelings from what I've seen with Clubhouse.
No, you're right on the money. And, ignoring Clubhouse, just make it clubs, clubs in real life. Like, same idea.
And business, I think the biggest mistake that businesses make is that you want to be successful in business, you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times. And I'm seeing too many businesses doing 1,000 things 6 times. They keep chasing, I keep this right here because I talk about this from time to time. They keep chasing bright, shiny objects. So it's like, ooh, you should now try this. And people go, ooh, let me try this. And, none of their mentors recommend it. No one else believes in it, but they keep chasing these bright, shiny objects. They're doing 1,000 things 6 times. By the way, it doesn't have to be 6. It could be 5, it could be 7, but it's about doing a handful of things and doing them over and over and over again. The old saying, you do it until you get it right. I think that's not quite there. You do it until you can't get it wrong. That's how much you do it. And when you do that, then you're doing 6 things 1,000 times well.
That's when the magic happens.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Ivan. Okay. How do you succeed as a master networker? Maybe 30 seconds or so.
I think it's the VCP process. You work your way through the VCP process. The other thing is that you got to understand that it's not about connections. It's about contacts. It's about the depth of the relationships that you have. So if your network is a mile wide and an inch deep, it'll never be successful. Your network needs to be both wide and in places it needs to go deep. You need to have meaningful relationships. It's not just the people that you have in your contacts, right? I mean, I have some amazing people in my contacts, but the question is, what if you called them? Would they take your call? And if you asked for a favor, would they do the favor for you? So it's not what you know or who you know. It's how well you know them that counts. And a master connector understands that and understands that it's about building that relationship with other people.
That really is the secret sauce and a true test of your relationship extension, your connection. I like that, Ivan. Okay. All right. So next question. This is an interesting one. I just like to get your feedback on it. Something that I see a lot in Clubhouse and its correlation to real life. All right. So I try not to have negative questions, but this is a negative potential positive. What is the general conclusion for most fake people? I don't know how else to say this. Fake people who have socially engineered their way to the top of their field. And hold on one second. The correlated question is, what effect could it have on their reputation if their true identity is discovered? So again, what is the conclusion for most people who fake their way to the top, who have social engineered their way to the top of their field? What is the general conclusion, especially if their identity becomes uncovered later? After.
I think it becomes a house of cards. It falls apart pretty easily, and I've certainly seen that throughout my career. People who look, we all want to manage our reputation, but I see people who just create a false reputation, and that just becomes a house of cards. And eventually, maybe not with everybody, but most people, it falls apart. And I've seen it over and over.
It is unbelievable to hear that from you. I'm right on the money with you. It's just Clubhouse is an experiment. It's never happened before, right? And some of the people that are on there literally sit there all night long. I think they sleep on there. They have probably 50,000 plus followers by now, and outside of this, they have no reputation. They're not on any other platforms, Facebook or anything like that. They just become a major influencer just on there. So when you walk in here and you're like, wow, this person's influential, but then they got 200 people on Twitter. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're giving advice.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? They're giving advice. They created this fort of, it makes it look like they're really some major influencer and they're giving advice about, but in the real life, they really have no knowledge, no proven expertise. Dangerous, very dangerous.
It is dangerous. And so one of the things I do in BNI, we have what we call traffic lights. Those are regions that are doing really, really well. They're in the green, or they're in the yellow, or in the red, or in the gray. Gray is, the lowest end. So, we'll do a convention and people start saying, well, I've been talking to so-and-so and talking to so-and-so. And I always tell them, ask where they are in traffic lights.
Wow.
If they're in green, shut up and listen, take notes, because they're rocking. If they're in yellow, have a conversation. If they're in the red or in the gray, thank them very much for their opinion. Don't write anything down and don't do anything they tell you, because they'll tell you how to speed up the wrong direction. If you're going the wrong direction, going faster won't get you where you need to go. And so I would equate what you said in Clubhouse. You got to kind of have a sense of that person and whether they're successful or not. And this is where Monsieur Google can help, do a kind of a deep dive to find out if this person really has the chops that they say they have.
Do you really have the light system? And if so, like,
We do.
how do people
Traffic lights.
interpret that? Like, what if you're a red light person, you're going to be kind of upset about that, right?
Yeah. And you got to get your stuff together. And we make it public to within the, oh yeah, everybody knows where everybody is.
So we all start off red, I guess, and build our way up.
You have 30 days before you show up in the traffic lights.
I see.
And so you could show up in the traffic lights, probably in yellow. I mean, theoretically, you could show up in green, but you have 30 days to show up in the traffic light system, and everybody gets to see what everybody's traffic lights are. So that, the idea is to apply a little peer pressure, but also clarity. We need to be open and clear about where we all are.
That is a super cool, unique element to your organization. I'm trying to think how that would work on Clubhouse. People, they would really, there's a lot of egos there, so they might get mad, but it's for the public's best interest. Thank you, Ivan. All right, so pleasure. Well, just an extension to that, maybe 30 seconds. Should people fake it until they make it? And I believe you already said this, but if you can sum that up. That old saying, I think Ben Franklin said it, fake it until you make it.
I mean, there's an element of truth to it, but if you fake it for too long, it becomes really obvious. I mean, I'll be honest, when I started BNI, I was method acting my way through the process. I was figuring it out as I went. I think what I tried to do it with integrity, though. When I was talking to people, I mean, I would say, look, I'm not quite sure. This is what I think, and I'm testing this. I'm experimenting with this. I certainly had commitment and passion, tons of commitment, tons of passion. Mm-hmm. And so I think people gave me a pass on not having a ton of experience because I was honest with them. So, I mean, fake it, but fake it with integrity. Is that possible? I mean, I think it is.
Yeah.
Don't make claims that are untrue.
Yeah.
If by faking it, you're making claims that aren't true, then that's a problem.
Yeah. And you got to pass too, because this whole thing, as you already told in your story, your organization began with serendipity. It was an accidental discovery, kind of like me on Clubhouse. I didn't mean for this to happen the way it went, but once you, as an opportunist and a realist, once you've seen an opportunity, you're like, you'd be a fool to not take it. It's already there. So yeah. So all right, thank you. I appreciate that. What role has, a little fun question now, what role has martial arts played in making you successful? Now, a little disclaimer, I'm also a martial arts. You're a karate guy. I'm kind of an MMA guy. So we have the same kind of
MMA. You're a madman. MMA, that's so you
I call myself MMA? A wrestler though. I was a wrestler in high school 4 years. So everything after that, I'm still a wrestler.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've studied multiple martial arts. When I was young, I did judo, kung fu. Wow. I spent a lot of time in Shotokan karate, where I got my first degree black belt. It's also where I learned that a first degree black belt is really a beginner. I know that sounds hard to believe, but it's totally true. You really are a beginner when you, and it takes, and you probably already know this, it takes as long to go from white belt to first degree black belt as it does to go from first degree black belt to second degree black belt.
Yeah.
And I studied under an 8th degree black belt. So what have I learned from it? I think probably one of the most important things, in addition to integrity, because they certainly teach respect and integrity, a good dojo teaches respect and integrity. But the other thing is a concept that I've only seen in martial arts, and that's the hidden elements. Have you ever heard that discussed? The hidden elements in martial arts?
Yeah, a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the hidden elements are, so you go through katas. Oh, and by the way, now I'm working on Tai Chi. Shotokan, it's a little hard at this age. So I'm doing Tai Chi now. I'm studying Tai Chi.
Well, it's okay. That's the soft martial arts. There's a lot of power behind that if you can concentrate it right.
Absolutely. So, so the martial arts, I mean, I remember one time my Shihan, who's he was, at the time was a 7th degree black belt. He said, break down this kata into its individual parts. And I said, sure. And so I'm breaking this kata down, and he's asking me each move. And then there was this one move where you do this. And he said, well, okay, so why do you do that? And I'm like, I'm sorry. He said, why do you do this? And I said, well, I swear I said this to him, because it looks bitchin'. Oh, that's when I found out that 7th degree, 8th degree black belts, they don't like when you joke around about the martial arts. And he yelled and he barked at me, and he said, no, you don't do it because it looks cool or it looks bitchin'. That's not why you do that. And then he taught me this idea. And by the way, I was a brown belt at that point. And this was my best kata, the one I knew frontwards and backwards. He said, no, the martial arts have hidden elements. And there are reasons why you make every move. And he showed me what that move meant. And what it was an arm lock and a break.
Ah, okay.
And he put my arm in there. He didn't break it, but I certainly felt it. And then he walked me through the entire kata. Now, this is what I told him 20 minutes earlier. I knew frontwards and backwards. Doc, I learned it for the first time that day because he taught me all the hidden elements. Now, how does that apply to business? Every business has hidden elements, secrets that make that business successful. And the more we understand the hidden elements of a business, the more we can create the systems and the culture to embrace those hidden elements.
Thank you, Ivan. Folks, I hope you're taking notes with this. This is a really good discussion. Ivan has some really great points. By the way, Ivan, if you ever come to, well, we can talk about this offline. I know you would love this stuff. In January, sometimes I go to the martial arts convention in Atlantic City, and I can connect you with a lot of people. I think you would really like that. It's pretty cool stuff.
Thank you.
So, yeah, let's see. So, all right, I know you have a hard stop. So I figure maybe about 30 seconds for each of these questions. We're getting into easier
I'll do my best.
All right, can one book change the world?
Yes. Absolutely. One book can change the world. No question about it. For me, it was Psycho-Cybernetics changed me. And I think Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I heard it when I was, it was an audio. I was 17 years old. Changed my life about the power of positive thinking.
Wow.
It really was the precursor to The Secret.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ivan. All right, what role has networking played in your life? A perfect question for you.
It has totally become my life, and it's become my mission in life to teach people. You know what? It's become my mission to change the way the world does business, to help people understand that it's not about competition. It's about collaboration. It's about working together. And networking, I believe that networking is not only a great way to get business, it's an even better way to do business within that core value of giver's gain.
So all from networking, you've made connections to bring it home that have actually changed your life.
Yeah, I'd recommend an article I wrote called The Butterfly Effect of Networking. You can find it on my blog, ivanmisner.com. And it's like the butterfly effect is the flapping of the wings of a butterfly and how it affects the environment. Well, the truth is the same thing happens with networking. You make one contact, which can lead you to another, to another, to another, to another. That's how I met Branson. was from a solopreneur business coach who introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody who introduced me to somebody, and I ended up meeting Branson. Yeah, it's powerful.
Thank you, Ivan. That is powerful. Okay, and as an extension of that question, is mentoring important, and who are some of your mentors?
Mentoring is critical. We all have people that are in our life, right? You could tell stories about people who have done some small thing for you that changed your life. I have a lot. I have high school teachers, I have college professors, I have business professionals who have absolutely changed my life. They are in my story. But here's the thing. I don't think it's not just who's in your story that's important. I think what's more important is whose story are you in? Whose life have you changed for the better in some way? You know, who are you mentoring? Who are you helping? Who are you pouring into? Sometimes it's one simple thing on a brief meeting. Other times it may be, you know, ongoing support in some way. But it's not just who's in your story, it's whose story are you in? And the truth is that mentoring makes you better at what you do. When you mentor others, I'll tell a real quick story.
This is a martial artist speaking, by the way. I can tell you, because the teacher and the student have such a strong relationship.
Oh yeah, you learn the martial arts better when you teach. That's why they have brown belts start teaching, because you learn your own art better. I coached 10-year-old kids on chess. I played a buddy, and he was like, "Dude, what are you doing? You're like, you've gotten really better." I'm like, "I'm coaching 10-year-olds." He's like, No, seriously, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm coaching 10-year-olds." And it made me a better chess player coaching 10-year-olds, because I had to learn the names of these things that I was doing intuitively. So yeah, mentoring is not only good for others, it also helps you.
Awesome response. I love that.
I wrote a book, by the way, called The Networking Mentor. You can get it on Amazon. Short book. It's the only book I wrote that's a parable.
Speaking of books, what are your favorite financial books?
Well, look, I'm not an expert on financial books. Dave Ramsey's book on finance, I really I like. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I really enjoyed thoroughly. So those are a couple of finance books. You're clearly the expert on that. You could give people far better advice than I could. Wait a minute. Your book. I got your book right here.
Oh, awesome! You got it. Okay,
I did.
cool.
I
didn't know.
It's just sitting right here because I haven't tackled it yet. But I've got your book right here. It's a hell of a read. I do plan on going through it.
That was my last one. Did you get the other two too? I think I sent.
I think I just got this one.
Okay.
All right. Let me start with that.
Okay. Well, when we close out, I'm going to tell everyone, always start with the necessity of finance first, which is this book right over here, and then the most important lessons. I wrote them in that order. But the survival of riches, yeah, you're advanced, though. I think you would be able to go right into that. So yeah, thank you, Ivan. I'm glad you got that. Do we need money to survive?
Yeah, but money to me is a means to an end. I never it was never my goal to be a multimillionaire. And I actually have another business that I started before I started BNI that's still around today, in investment properties. And I could retire just on my investment property business. So it was really my difference. It was my goal to make a difference in people's lives. It was my goal to do what I love. I think an entrepreneur is either working in their flame or working in their wax. When they're working in their flame, they're on fire, they're excited, they love what they do. People can see it in the way they behave, they can hear it in their voice. When they're working in their wax, it takes all their energy away. They just don't like what they're doing. And you can see that in their behavior, you can hear that in their voice. And so what I wanted was I wanted to work in my flame. I wanted to do the things I loved. And I figured, if I do it and I'm consistent and I do 6 things 1,000 times, systems, processes, culture, I'll make money. So it was never about the money. It was about what I did. And that led to making money, which also led me to doing foundations. I started the BNI Foundation with my late wife. We've given away millions of dollars to schools and education. and children in education. And my late wife and I started the Misner Family Foundation. So it has given me an opportunity to literally give back to the communities from which I draw.
Thank you, Ivan. So just to make sure I got an answer. So it's a hard yes. You definitely need money.
Yeah, you need money.
Right.
And you need to learn how to manage your money and work with your money and put your money to work for you.
And that's sort of answering the next question. So is finance necessary?
Yeah, look, I know people that just don't understand how to manage their money, and they get into credit card debt. And when I was my early 20s, I ran up a credit card where I couldn't pay it off, and I'm like, this is crazy. This is stupid. I'm paying stupid interest on this credit card. I am never going to do that again. I think I was 22. Never did it again. And when my wife and I got married, I said the Misner household does not run up credit cards. That is a hard no. And if we can't pay it off in that month, I don't mind using credit cards. I know some people don't like it. I like the points.
The convenience factor and the points. Yeah, exactly.
I like the points,
hotel rooms.
but I pay it off every month. The credit card companies probably don't like me a lot because I have always paid it off. And God bless my wife. She was a wonderful woman. And she actually came to me one day and said, I'm out of control. And she gave me all of her credit cards and said, don't give them back to me until I get this under control. And she did. She recognized. So yeah, you got to be able to manage your finances. Yeah, you got to put your big boy pants on, put your big girl pants on, and manage your finances.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ivan. All right, just a few more questions left. 3 more questions left. How important is having a purpose in business? Actually, this is 2. And what is your purpose?
I think having a purpose in business is absolutely critical. If you really want to make a difference in people's lives, you got to have a purpose. And mine is this philosophy of giver's gain. To me, giver's gain is more than a phrase. It's a way of living one's life. It's a perspective to view and interact with the world. It's an attitude, not an expectation. And when it's applied properly, it'll change your life. And when it changes enough lives, it'll change the world. That's mine.
That is an awesome response. Thank you, Ivan. All right. So ties into the next question. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so, and why?
I wrote, when I was in my 20s, I wrote a 40-year plan.
Wow.
And it's on my blog, ivanmisner.com. It's, years and years of content up there. It's all free. I wrote a 40-year plan, and my plan was that by my 60s, I wanted to spend the rest of my life being the elder statesman and being in a position financially where I didn't have to work, but that I could continue to do the things that I was passionate about, which is pouring into people, doing this. This is my flame. I love doing interviews. So I want to continue to do that. And there was one thing I added, and I added in my 60s, enjoy life. I've worked hard. I think the secret to success without hard work is still a secret. You got to put in hard work. I worked hard. My goal now is to enjoy life and pour into people.
Thank you, Ivan. Brilliant, brilliant. All right, last question. What would you like to be, excuse me, I'm sorry. What would you like to be your legacy to this world?
I think your life is your legacy. It's as simple as that. Jean-Paul Sartre, I'll quote badly, Jean-Paul Sartre.
Paraphrase. Quoting badly is paraphrasing.
Yeah, that's better. I'll paraphrase Jean-Paul Sartre. He said, we all die too soon or too late, and yet our life is complete at that moment with a line drawn neatly under it, ready for the summing up. We are our deeds in life and little more. And that's why I say your life is your legacy. How you lived it, how you treated others, how you helped others, that's the legacy you leave.
Thank you, Ivan. Appreciate it. Awesome, awesome, awesome interview today. And we're going to, by the way, folks, if you're, well, we might not post this till later, but for those on YouTube, at least, we're going to have a Clubhouse meeting, stage night this Friday Dr. Ivan will be there. So 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. Definitely check him out. Before we close out, Dr. Ivan, I would like to leave the floor for you. Any closing thoughts? You want to tell people about your website, any new products, books, or services you want to offer? The floor is yours. Say whatever you feel is necessary. Feel free to promote anything. Stage is yours.
Well, thanks. Look, at anybody that's interested in checking out BNI, go to bni.com. My blog, ivanmisner.com, all free content. I mean, there are links to my books there, but all free content up there. And I'm very active on social media. So come check me out on social media and Clubhouse. I'm becoming a little more active on Clubhouse. I do like it a lot. And so I'm looking forward to doing the interview with you. I think my closing thought would be, I really believe that your network is a beacon of hope in a sea of fear. The people you surround yourself with can make a massive difference in your life. Surround yourself with the right people. I believe that hope is more powerful than fear. Hope plus a plan plus taking action with your network will make all the difference in the world. And your network is so important. And like I say, it's hope and your network are more powerful than fear.
Thank you. I appreciate you and appreciate you being here today. So we're going to conclude now. Ivan, if you can just hang on just a moment as I walk you out. So folks, you've been listening to the Dr. Finance Live podcast. Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. We have Dr. Ivan Misner. Please check him out on his website, as you mentioned. And definitely read these. Well, here's the website right here, left and right, drfinance.info. And we have The Necessity of Finance. Check it out first. The most important lessons in economics and finance. And as Dr. Ivan showed you, the survival of the richest. Follow, like, and subscribe on all forms of social media platform, and especially on the podcast directories. And we'll see you on the next episode, folks. Thanks again. Have a nice day. Bye-bye now.
Bye.